So the first thing we covered was buying a call, right? So when you buy a call, you need a significant move in your direction to make a profit, and your max loss is the amount of premium you're paying. But you can essentially sell another call against it. You think the market is going to stay above 14,900. You have a bullish assumption, but you think that market is probably not going to go above, let's say, 15,200 or 15,300. That's your assumption. So what you can do is you can buy 14,900 call and you can sell the 15,300 call. That's the probability. Oh my bad. 12, 25. 15,300 calls sold. So what this essentially does, it decreases my maximum loss. So in this case, I was losing 22,000. In this case, I'm losing, my max loss is 13,000. The reason is I am paying 306 when I'm going long enough. When I'm going long in an option, when I'm buying the option, the maximum loss I can make on that trade is the amount of premium I'm collecting, which is 306 points per unit. Which when multiplied by 75 comes up to 22. Now when I'm selling another option against it, what I'm doing is I'm reducing the cost of my trade. I'm paying 306 rupees to take this trade, and then I'm collecting 127 rupees to reduce the cost of the trade. That's what the spreads are meant for, to reduce the cost of the trades or to reduce your maximum loss in case you're on the selling side. Let's not go there yet. So what I essentially did was I sold, I bought an option for 306 rupees. I sold one for 127. So 306 minus 127.7. And 178.3 multiplied by the lot size. So my maximum loss in the trade is now down to 13,372. But what's the con of this? Like nothing comes for free. If you're reducing your maximum loss, something else has to get affected, right? There is some negative to a positive. So the negative for this is if I'm reducing the cost of my trade, I'm also capping my after 15,300 since I've sold that particular option. So until 14,000 until from 14,900 all the way to 14,300, this particular put will gain value. And at expiry, if Nifty expires below 50,300, this thing will go to zero. So I'll make money on this particular call and I'll collect all the premium. I'll keep all the premium that I sold for this call. But if Nifty eventually expires below above 50,300, then any particular profits I make in this particular call will be offsetted by the losses I make in the sold call. Does that make any sense? I'm revising this because spreads are very important. Anything we'll study later. So if you have any questions, please ask me right now.
Can we do this part again?
A spread. Awesome. No worries. So as I mentioned, if you're bullish on the market, what will you do? You'll buy the call. I mean, that's one way to go about it. So what you'll do is, in this case, what's the maximum money you can lose? When you're buying something, the maximum money you can lose is the amount of money you put for it, right? So 306 rupees per option. That's your maximum loss on this trade. So 306 multiplied by 75. Multiplied by 75. So the maximum loss in this trade is 22,950. So market can go up, but if it doesn't, you need a significant move in your direction, which is 300 points to be able to break even. If that doesn't happen, then you'll essentially make a loss at expiry. All the assumptions are for expiry, the red line. Take a note of that one. So since that's a lot of risk in your hand, that's some 22k risk in your hand, a lot of people are not comfortable taking this particular position. So what's one way to reduce the maximum loss in this? Since you're buying you're buying an option 14,900 call, which means your assumption is market will stay above 14,900. But you also have another assumption that market will not go above 15,300. So what you can do in this case to reduce the cost of your trade, you can buy the 14,900 call, and then you can sell 15,300 put call against it. So when you sell a call, you're bearish essentially at that point of time. So you're bullish that the market is gonna be above 14,900. That's your bullish assumption, and you have another assumption that market is not gonna go above 15,300. So you sold that particular call. Now, since you paid 300 rupees for this call, and you are collecting 127 rupees for this call, so the actual cost of your trade goes down from 22k to 13,300. So we can just do that. 306 minus was 127. So per lot, per unit, earlier you were paying 306 rupees per option. And now you're paying, instead of that, you're paying 179 for the spread. And when you multiply this by 75, the cost of your trade is 13,425. So this is the max amount of money you can lose in this particular. But since your assumption is market will not go above 15,000, which is why you put this trade in the first place, any particular profits above 15,300, your maximum profit is capped. You are not going to return any profit beyond this point, and you'll have to essentially wait till expiry to be able to make this profit. Max, did you get the explanation? Or if you have any particular question among this, please let me know.
That's fine. Thank you.
Irfan,
Uh,
I have a doubt. So, won't
sure,
theta decay affect like your call
it
spread?
will.
Because I think if you buy a call, it will decay faster, right? Rather than your sell option, like to offset the cost.
Yes. So it will affect you. But so, I mean, I want to not cover this just yet because that's something which we are supposed to cover in the another section. But just since you seem to know a bit about this, so what really happens when you buy a naked call is theta is always working against you. Look at the theta here. Theta is minus 1.53 for no change at all in the price in underlying. In a single day, you're going to lose 1.53 per lot per unit, which when multiplied by the lot size is 150. Oh, I'm sorry. For the naked option, for the naked call, you just bought a call. So you're gonna lose 560 rupees for every single day Nifty does not move at all. That's due to theta. But since in this case you're long theta, you're short theta when you're buying a call, and when you're selling a call, you're long theta. So this particular thing, you're actually your theta is in positive, some 400 positive. So what really happens is when you buy this particular call, which has negative theta, and you sell this call, which makes it positive theta, your theta essentially decreases. So this particular trade, you lose lesser to time than you would when buying a naked call. You are still losing money to theta, but not as much. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Irfan.
No worries, man. So essentially, the pros of a spread is your maximum loss is capped, your maximum loss is reduced, but the con of this is your maximum profit is also capped. In case of a naked call, the profit can, as if Nifty goes to 15,400 or beyond, or let's say it goes to 50,700, you're going to make 41,000 out of this trade. Oh, I'm sorry, 37,000 out of this trade. But because you put a spread on, any movement above 50,300, because that's the option you sold, you are not going to make any profit. That's your max profit. It's capped. So that's the pro, that's the con. Uh, another, spreads have different Greeks than just also we will come. I don't think it's wise to just jump into it right now. Either way. So this was a spread. Let me just put that in the doc. We did cover this yesterday, but I just thought I would double revise because you need to know spreads jumping into other strategies. It's the basic building block of any strategy. So in spreads, I would like to elaborate some. So when you're buying options, when you're buying an option and then selling another option against it, when the bought option is closer to the price than the sold option, that is a debit spread. What do you mean by debit? You're paying money. You're essentially paying money. So when the price of the option you pay when for buying is higher than the price you pay of the option you're selling, that's a debit spread. You're putting in money to enter the trade. So this is essentially another word for this is buying the spread. I just lost the screen. Oh no, I just moved it to another window. No worries. Buying the spread. In this case, the money you are putting to buy the option is greater than the from selling the option. So the converse of that is selling a spread. So in this case, you bought a. So now the another way to go long on the market is by selling, as I had explained yesterday. In this case, your maximum profit is capped, but your max loss is essentially unlimited. So in this case, what you can do is, since there's a lot of margin which you need for the trade, what you can do is to reduce the cost of your trade. You sold a put, and you can buy another put. Your assumption is market is not going to go under 14,900. It's only going to go up. But in case the market starts going down, you want to protect yourself after any move which happens after 14,000, let's say, or 14,500. Let's do that. So what you're going to do is you're going to sell the 14,000 put, and you're going to buy the 14,500 put, and that essentially makes a debit spread. In this case, the amount of money you have collected by selling is more than the amount of money you're paying for buying the option. Any questions? So in this case, this is actually a credit spread. A credit spread is the one which is also called as selling the spread. This is a common term for this. The money you're putting to sell the option is greater than the money you collect. Money you're collecting from sold option. In any spread trade, in any option strategy which has more than one buying or selling, each particular contract is essentially can be called a leg. This is one leg of the option. This is another leg of the option. This is another common terminology you will come across. So in this case, one leg I'm selling the put which is closer, which is at the money, and then to cover my max loss, to limit my maximum loss, I'm buying another put to cover my maximum loss. And the difference, I'm collecting 265 rupees for this particular option, and then I am paying 138 rupees for this particular option. So my max loss in this case is 265 minus 1. So this is the amount of money I am collecting to enter this. It's a credit spread. It's a credit spread. The money is coming to my account and multiplied by 75. So 9,400 or 9,500. So that is my maximum profit. The amount of money I'm collecting. And if the market starts going down, this is the amount of money I'm going to lose per the P&L diagram. So max loss in this.
Yeah.
Sure.
When you talk about maximum loss or maximum profit, we're talking about holding this position till expiry, right?
Till expiry, yes. Any maximum or minimum is judged by expiry of a trade.
Thanks.
Yeah. So this is the credit spread. Should I put a screenshot for this? Let's do that. So bull call spread is a debit spread. So in this case, you're paying the premium. It would have mentioned premium. You're paying 7,620 rupees. That's your debit spread. And the other part of that is credit spread, which is you're collecting the premium. Get 5,462. Take the screenshot. Let's debit spread, credit spread. So based on which leg you're buying and which leg you're selling, you can take a bullish or a bearish position. So one basic example is if you're buying a call and you are selling another call to cover the position. You bought this particular call and you sold this particular call to cover the max profit to reduce the cost of your trade. In this case, you have a bullish assumption that market is going above. Another way is to sell the put and then buy another put against it. Now these diagrams might look very similar, but they are completely different trades. In one case, you are paying the money to enter the trade. In one case, you're collecting the premium. That's your bullish assumptions. Now the bearish side would be you buy the put and you buy another and you sell. You bought a put and you're selling. Your assumption is market is going down, so you want to buy the put. And your assumption is if market will not go below 14,400. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna buy at the money put. And I'm going to sell a 14,400 put against it. So what this is going to do is when I was just buying the option, my maximum loss was 19,875. That was my maximum loss I could have made if the market didn't do anything. Now, since I'm selling this particular option and collecting 117 rupees, I have almost reduced the cost of my trade by half. Now I've reduced my maximum loss to 11,000 because I'm paying this much premium and I'm collecting 117 rupees. So I've reduced the cost of my trade significantly. So this is just the opposite side of this. This is the bearish angle on that. And another thing I can do is I sold the call and I want to protect my max loss after 15,500. So I sold a particular 14,000 call and I want to reduce 15,500. So I'll sell this particular call, buy this call, sorry. And that will cover up for my maximum loss in case the market goes against me. Any questions with spreads? Please ask ahead as much questions as you have. I do not mind answering. Spreads are the basic building blocks of other strategies. No? We good?
Okay, one question here. So these spreads are the strategy that we make based on the view. Now, how to get the view that as a trader, how do we know
Yeah.
that market is going to be bullish or bearish or going to stay neutral?
Different people have different ways to reach, but you can base things off technical analysis. So let's look at the chart of Nifty. And on the daily chart of Nifty. So my assumption is that I see this is a fairly decent support, 14,200 level. This looks like a decent support to me. Market broke this particular level, tested this once. This is the budget stuff, so you cannot really counter it. But my assumption is market should not go much under this level. So what I can do is I can just look at the chart and based on that, I can come here and I can sell the monthlies. So I can just sell 14,200. So I cannot type this in. Sorry. I have a bullish position. So I can sell the put.
So basically, based on the price action and support and resistance data, we make a view.
Yes, that's one way you can do it. Many people have different assumptions. Some people base their trades fundamentally as well. Whoever some people have some assumptions that earnings is coming up, so the price can move upwards, stuff like that. So it can essentially vary from people to people. There's no particular one short answer for that, obviously. So in this case, I can sell this particular option, just sit on my ass, collect my 5K for the month. If I think the market is going to stay above 40,200. So I'm not sure how well, to what extent does that answer your question, but it's very subjective. How do you enter a trade? How do you exit? What do you base your trade on? Most people base it off technical analysis. That's what I do. Airtel. I saw Airtel somewhere here, and I knew that was probably going to break this particular level. So I wanted to take a credit spread here. I was like, it's definitely not going to break this particular support. I wanted to take a credit spread here, but I couldn't because I ran out of margin. But this is something I would base my trades on. TCS, this is the one trade I took. When TCS broke this particular level, I knew it was going to test it and then move upwards. So when it came to test this particular level, and when it opened gap up on the other day, I was fairly positive that's not going to break this particular level. So what I did was I sold this particular option. I sold 2800 put, and I bought a 2700 put to cover that position, to cover my max loss on the trade. So you can just look at charts, base your trades off of that. I mean, that's one way I like to go about it, basing on technical analysis. So for now, if I had to look at Airtel, I mean, I feel that it is unlikely to cross below 565. So let's see what trade we can put up for that. First of all, I would like to check if the implied volatility is high enough for this particular trade, which I think it would be because Airtel just crashed 3% yesterday. Yeah, and the implied volatility is fairly high. So when implied volatility is fairly high, market is expecting a bigger, which means a lot of the move is already priced into the price of options. Essentially, the Vega is pretty high if we were to go into the Greeks. So what I want to be short Vega, which means I want to sell the options in this case. Since my assumption is market is not going to this particular support level, which is at 565. So I will want to sell options here. So what I will do is I will go to build a strategy and 560. I think market is not going to be 560. So I will sell this put. And I need a lot of money, 2.25 lakhs for that, which I don't have. So what I will do is to cover that position. If market breaks below 540, then I know I can be in serious problem because if Airtel crashes below 540, then I really don't see another support until 510, and I don't want to be holding that trade. So what I do is I sold particular 560 put because I think market is not going below this. But in case it does, I want to cover myself after 540. I want to limit my max loss for that one. So I'll buy this particular option. So I just made a credit spread, a put credit spread. I am trading puts, one put, another put, and I'm trading them in such a way that I'm collecting a premium. So in this case, my maximum, as long as market stays over, Airtel stays over 554 at the month's end, I should return a profit. So somewhere here. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah.
To a certain extent,
So-
yes. But again, the question is a wide range, so that can't be covered over here. I think we need a more technical analysis session to answer those questions. But anyway,
Yeah.
with the strategy point of view, I think this is good enough, fair enough.
Yeah. So this trade actually looks nice to me. So I might look into this. I need to reserve some 63K for this particular trade, which I think I can afford. So let's see. While discussing, we probably encounter a decent. So I'll just put that as an example of a. No, don't take this trade and blame me for it. Anyone. Feels fancy. So in this case, I'm trading puts and it's a credit spread. I'm collecting premium. So this was spreads. Any other questions with spreads? Now we are moving into other option strategy. Okay, I think that's enough. So now I am entering into the territory called new. In all the strategies we have seen so far, you have a directional assumption that let's move back to Nifty. And the monthly. So you have a directional assumption. Market is going to stay above, market is going down. But what if you have a neutral assumption? You market in a range. You look at the chart of Nifty and you have an assumption that for the entire month, Nifty is not going to break 14,200, and for whatever reason you have an assumption that it's not going to break 15,400. That's your assumption, or let's say 15,500. So how do you profit off anyone who has the answer for this? I'm sure someone will know.
What?
I have an assumption that Nifty is not going to below.
Out of the money puts.
What? Out of the money puts? No, my assumption is your. What to do with the out of the money puts? Finish your sentence.
Buy them.
No. Your assumption is that the market is not going below this, and the market is not going above this. How do you profit off of this assumption?
So it's sell 14,200 puts
Yeah.
and also sell the call of 15,500.
500.
Yeah.
Yeah, lovely. So if you feel that the market is not going below this, sell the insurance contract on this. I'm happy taking this risk because I don't believe that's going to happen. And in this case, I don't think market is breaking above 50,500, so I'm happy selling this option. So how do you trade this? So let's remove everything. Build my strategy. My assumption is Nifty is going to stay above 40,200, so I'm selling this put. And another assumption is it's going to stay above, below 15,500. So I'm selling this call. And that essentially gets you to a strangle. You have a neutral position in the market. Now, this is the most basic neutral position you can have. You are selling one option, you are selling another option. So, in this case, you are selling both the legs. As long as market stays between these particular contracts, you are going to make a profit. But then again, if the market starts going above this particular level or below this particular level, you are going to start losing money in the trade. And then after that, your maximum loss is unlimited on that. So, what is the amount of premium I'm collecting? What is my maximum profit? Right? How do I calculate that? So, I'm collecting 85 rupees for this particular put that I sold. I'm collecting 76 rupees for the particular all that I sold. Neo, do you want to mute yourself? I'll text him. Okay, he muted himself. No worries. So in this case, I'm collecting 85 rupees for the.
എനിക്ക് വേണ്ട അതെ മതി മതി.
Neo, can you please mute yourself? Okay, so in this case, I'm collecting 85 rupees for the put and I'm collecting 76 for the call that I sold. So I'm so plus 85. That is what I'm collecting and multiplied by 75 because that is the lot size. So in this case, I'm collecting 12,116 rupees. And as long as the market stays between these two price levels, this is my maximum. This is going to be the maximum profit I'll end the month at. at expiry. Now, in this case, since I am collecting, how much am I collecting? 161 rupees for this, right? So since I'm collecting 161 rupees for this trade, if the market, that essentially adds to my cushion of safety. So let's zoom into this chart. And 14,200. So my break even is 160 points from 14,600. So that's 40,038 or 40,200. I'm sorry, because that's the put I sold, and I get further protection for the amount of premium I've collected. That's 150 points there, and that's 160 points there. And if the market goes above these points, that's when I start to lose money in this trade. So far, any questions about the strangle? This particular strategy is called a strangle. You go to and a short strangle. You're selling the strangle. Any questions so far about this?
Okay, since the loss is unlimited, is in a way to hedge this strategy as well, like buying the OTM calls.
Yes, exactly. Perfect. There is a way to, and we will explore this in the iron condor. There's a particular strategy which is essentially just covering both of the legs,
Okay.
the max loss on both the legs, and that essentially makes an iron condor.
Okay, I was interested to know the margin also it requires. Okay, we'll cover that.
Yes. No, you ask a good question, so let me cover that. The margin you need is if you're selling if you're selling one naked option, you always need to put a fair amount of capital, around 1 lakh plus. Okay. If you're selling two of them, your capital goes up slightly higher, but it's around 1.5 lakhs. You need to put this trade on Nifty. So to collect 12,000, you need to put around this. So that's around some 7% profit. I think, yeah, around 7 to 6% profit, which I think is fairly good. I mean, this is a fairly good trade. I might be comfortable taking this if I had to.
Hi,
Yeah.
so are we like immediately in the money with this?
In the money, I don't get it. What do you mean by in the money in
Like,
this case?
so for example, if I take this trade, right? So
Yeah.
it's already neutral. Like the market is like, ठीक है, अभी 0.1, 0.2% move कर रही है.
Huh.
So are we like immediately somewhat in the money because we basically collected premium, right?
Yeah. So what will happen is if the market is not moving to the amount of premium, I mean, if the market is not moving quickly enough for the price of each options to rise up, so what will essentially happen is this is your profit and loss diagram for the day. And as you move and as the time passes by, and if the market doesn't at all, you can see the blue line. It's essentially moving in your favor. So as time passes by, you will be in profit until certain extent, and as more and more time passes by, the blue line will tend closer to the red line, which means your margin of safety keeps going higher.
Okay.
Does that answer your question somewhat, if not completely?
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
So,
So blue line
Irfan,
and red line. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
if
Truth seeker,
before
sorry.
if before expiry, what you call Nifty goes above 4,000, means 14,500, 15,500, and comes back to 15,400.
Yeah.
So at that time also we will be making profit, or else it is.
You will be making profit in almost all cases. We'll come to implied. The Greeks can affect your trades. So the red line is the absolute, right? This is defined. It's written in paper. This is what the profit and loss would be at expiry. So no matter where the price of Nifty goes all this while, Nifty could go. So when is the expiry of this? The expiry of this is 25th Feb, right? So 25th Feb, somewhere here. This is your expiry. So let's just draw a line there. Yeah. This is the expiry now, and this is the areas you have shorted. So market can go all the way high, and as long as it comes back down within your range, you're gonna end up with the max profit.
Okay.
Yeah. But then again, if your margin requirements might go up, That's one thing. As trade starts going against you, your broker might need more margin to cover for any additional losses on that extent, right? Because if Nifty just go, where did we draw the line to? Somewhere 17,000, right? USD. So if Nifty goes to,
So usually Zerodha calls you and tells about these margins, or you will get a notification.
you will get a notification. You will get a SMS.
Irdak, would it be possible to show the strategy on the Opstra? It looks like this graph is messing me.
Yeah, actually, that does make sense. So I do have Opstra open up. Let's build the same
Perfect.
thing.
Perfect. Uh, and also the Opstra, they have the. Are you subscribed to its services or I just opened it?
Opstra, no.
No.
Opstra, I am just logged in and I'm
Okay.
not subscribed to it. I mean, it's actually more expensive than Sensible, which I don't understand because I think it's Sensible is the better one.
Okay. Fine. Let's go ahead with this one. Graph at least I can relate.
Graph actually is significantly better in Opstra. I don't think anybody repeats that. Say this particular call. Okay, yeah. So far so
Perfect.
good. What were we discussing? Why was I moving the chart around? Yeah, margin. So if Nifty goes here to 17,000, right? You are minus 1 lakh on this particular trade. And then your broker will probably feel that the 1.5 lakh that he's collecting trade is not enough to cover for any further move. What if Nifty just gaps up and starts moving up and up? So your broker might request additional margin and you'll probably get a margin call. So I think that, yeah, we can actually discuss the strategies in this for the most part. Opstra has a better chart. Okay, so any questions, any further questions about Strangle? None? Okay, so let's just move on.
Yeah, hi.
So,
One question. So can we add further options to basically like reduce the margin or hedge our
yes,
positions in this?
yes, you can. I'll come to that in under Condor. It's Iron
Okay.
Condor. Or let's just do it right now. So, in this case, I feel that, okay, so since the margin requirement is extremely limited risk factor, right? What I can do is I can essentially convert this naked cell to a spread by capping my max loss. So what I can do is I can add 14,000 or let's say 13,900 put, or let's actually move 500 points below that. So that's 13,700, 13700 put. So I can buy this particular option. And what that will do is that will cover my max loss on this end. So far so good.
Yeah,
And now
perfect.
and similarly on the other side, so it's at 15,500 call. So I'll just go and sell this. I'll buy the 16,000 call option to cover my max loss on that end.
So how have you chosen this strike of 13, 9, and 16?
Mm, oh, 13,760. So I wanted to be, I just took a random assumption that uh, I don't know what exactly to. I mean, it's you can change it however you
Hmm.
need. It's
Okay,
just a random example that I chose.
fine.
Yeah. So in this case, since I've covered my maximum loss on both the sides, my margin requirement went by half because now my maximum loss is limited to some 30K, and my broker needs to cover for some other charges, whatever the reason is, but he always collect some more premium for that. Now, what is the con of this? Let's just do it in Sensible. I'm sorry, it's just much easier for me to do that. 40,200, 13900. Yeah. 15,000. It's a lot of clicking. Man. Okay. That's, that makes sense. So when I was just selling options, what was the premium I was collecting? I was collecting 12,000 rupees. But now since I'm buying options to cover for my maximum risk, I'm not collecting the same amount of money, right? So I'm collecting some lesser money because I'm also paying some additional premium to hedge my position. I'm hedging these. So as you add more and more hedges, your maximum profit down. Now I can only make 8,000 rupees as my maximum profit in this for the exact same trade, but my margin requirement also went down. So on a percentage basis, it's more or less similar to some extent. And my maximum losses are covered, and I can take the same trade for a lot lesser margin. So this essentially, when you take a strangle and you cover the maximum losses on both the legs, it becomes an iron condor, a short iron condor. Short is you're selling it, an iron condor. Basically, you're covering your maximum loss. So that's the strangle, and that's the iron condor. When you take a strangle and cover the maximum loss on both the sides, that's an iron condor. They are both neutral positions. So what Sol does is, or used to do is, he's not doing that anymore. He's selling strangles now. So what Sol used to do was he would just sell. So what he would do is he would look at the options.
To whom you're talking about? Who does that?
Soul Reaper. He's
Soul
not here
Reaper.
right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, got it.
So what Soul Reaper would do is he would look at the option and he would look at whichever option has 0.2 delta. So in this case, 15,200 has a 0.2 delta or close enough. And this has 14,600. So 14,600 and 14,600 and 15,200. So what Sol would do is he would come and he would sell an iron condor. Do that. So he would usually 15,200. So he would come and he would sell the 15,200 sell and cover up to 200 points of risk. And on the other leg, he would take the 14,600 put. He would sell the 14,600 put and he would cover up to 200 points. And he would go to a week and take this trade. And that essentially covers him till 14,500 and somewhere near 15,300. ISP God is here. I don't worry. No worries. So what he's doing now is he's taking triangles for whatever is because they're easier to. That's what he's trying to do right now. No opinions, man. Whatever works for him. I don't think this is a good market to be neutral, one directional. It's too
What
much
are the
risk.
warnings?
Warnings. Where
Warnings
exactly do you see that?
New strategy.
यहाँ पे execution risk, executing a basket order. So you are selling multiple legs. There's a risk that one option might sell, one order might get complete, the other one might not. So that's a execution risk apparently. Future IV. If this trade is not for expiry day, the PNL depends. We'll come to that. It is difficult to input the right implied volatility for a future date, and the default IV values may not be accurate. That is fair. So market currently is pricing in a certain amount of move, which is why the option prices are sold to a particular level, are holding the current value that they are. As market conditions change, let's say Modi announces something at 8 p.m. Modi makes a 8 p.m. announcement. Good or bad, don't really have an a bias on that, right? But the market might, all of a sudden, the market might assume different movement. Market might assume, if market is assuming 5% move within this week, all of a sudden market could be assuming 8% move within, right? So the option prices will again go up or down based on that, and that's implied volatility. Market is implying a higher or a lower volume. So as that changes, your particular, the blue line essentially is what will change. The red line is like it will never change. This is at expiry. This is what your PNL would be. But your blue line, where the PNL would be on the day you buy or sell this particular option. Or in this case, if you look in Opstra, let's just remove the bot calls. Delete. So in this case, as you move the implied volatility, your PNL will go up or down. Nothing else changes the market, neither the date, nothing else, just the implied volatility. So if market is expecting a bigger or lesser move, the at the present day value position in loss will also change accordingly. So that is something we will cover up. No worries. Let's finish what all the strategies are. And the third neutral strategy. So we have covered short strangle, where you're buying and selling one leg. No, where you're selling a put and a call. We covered iron condor, where you're selling a put or a call and covering up by buying an additional put and an additional call to cover up for your maximum risk, to reduce your margin and to essentially reduce the cost of your trade. Now let's head. There's another strategy. If you feel the market is not going to move at all or very little, you have an assumption that market is just going to stay in this range for for however long. So what you're going to do in this case is you're going to sell a straddle. So let me clear all the things out. And straddle is selling at the money call and at the money put. All you're going to do is you're going to sell the particular call and sell this put. So your assumption is market is not going to at all or very little. That's your assumption. So now, since you are short on the at the money calls, as the market starts moving, these particular calls will start gaining value, which means if you shorted them, you're short on them. So the price will start going up, which counts as a loss in your thing. So your maximum profit in this case is if the market expires right at 14,900. Why? Because if market expires right at 14,900, the put and the call both will go to zero. Because these particular contracts don't have any value until they are in the money. So they will essentially expire out of the money or at the money. At expiry, their values will go to zero. But so in this case, what is your maximum profit? Your maximum profit is the amount of premium you're collecting. Every time you're short option, your maximum profit is the amount of premium you collect. So 265 plus 306. 265 plus 306. 570 points multiplied by 75. So the maximum profit for this trade is 42.8k. So that is what you see here. This is your maximum profit. But in which case are you going to collect your maximum profit? It's when Nifty expires exactly right at 14,900. The odds of that happening are quite low. So your essential assumption is market is going to move, or let's say within 200 or 300 points. If till expiry market remains in this range, then you will collect some decent 10k plus profit. So your break even is the amount of premium you're collecting from the price of the strike you have sold. So you have collected some 500 point premium in this, 570, so around 600 points. So your break even would be 14,900 minus 600, which is 14,300 or close to it on the short side. And your break even on the call side would be 14,900 plus 600, which is 15,500 or close to it. So at expiry, if the market moves above points, you're gonna end, your losses are technically unlimited. So another, similarly, since the margin requirements of this is very high, what you can do is you can cover both the legs and by buying some out of the money put and call. So what is now 600 and 50,200, 50,100. Buy. Internet. Call. Yeah. So in this case, I'm essentially capping up my max. And if market moves above this point, I will not be making any further loss. It's essentially similar to how we convert.
What is the name of this strategy? Butterfly, is
This
it?
is an iron butterfly. Yeah. It's iron butterfly.
Okay.
So there's a short strangle where you buy and sell. You can cover the hedge. You can hedge the positions and convert it to a short iron butterfly. Another neutral strategy is strangle. You can take a strangle and you can cover you can hedge both the sides to convert it to a iron condor. So these are 4 neutral strategies on the market where you are trying to profit off of no or little move in the market. You have a neutral assumption. Makes sense so far? Any questions, man? Go for it.
So for the iron butterfly, you expect market to be like highly lethargic and less movement, just time decay, and you profit out of it. And
Yeah.
with the hedge positions of buying far OTM calls and puts, it's totally hedged.
Yeah, it is totally hedged. But there's a serious con to iron butterfly. Your break even your is it's very narrow. So if you looked at the strangle, short straddle, not strangle, straddle, short straddle, where's your break even in this? Your break even is at 14,590, right? Now I'll just take the same thing and I'll add I don't know if it's gonna stick to the same strike. Yes, it will. So I have put a 200-point hedge, right? Now my break even is significantly worse. From 14,000, from 14,500, from 14,600, it's down to 14,700. My break even has moved 100 points. Why? Because my maximum profit in this, all my protection is the amount of premium I'm collecting. That's all my protection, right? If market moves anything above that particular point, that's my risk. So when I'm selling a straddle, the premium is all my cushion, safety cushion. And when I'm buying the hedges, I'm essentially reducing the size of that cushion because I'm selling these options, but then I'm also buying them. So it is a very low probability trade. So if you looked at the straddle, it put you at some 63% probability, but all of a sudden, just because you're hedging it, it converts the probability to 36%. There's a very good chance that market is going to rip through either of these sides. So that's essentially all the 4 neutral strategies. So we covered all the bullish strategies, spreads and naked calls, bearish strategies, and the neutral strategies. So far, so good. Any questions? Go for it, man.
So iron condors have better break evens than butterfly, right?
Yeah, significantly. I mean, in most cases, there can be some conditions, but in almost all cases, I think condos will have better break evens than butterfly.
Pop as well.
Yeah. I mean, it depends, right? If your condor is very narrow, then you're just like, I'm gonna remain very close just within the.
So Itak, do you use condos most often in your day-to-day strategy?
No, I like to be directional. So I really don't like taking neutral positions, especially in this market, because it's a very one-sided market. So what I prefer is I would just take a directional trade
Mm.
and I will adjust accordingly in most cases. I will either book the loss or maybe move it further out, a lot of other things, but I do not like to be. But sometimes when I'm really, really uncertain, I'll just put on a condor and see what to do if I cannot decide on anything else. But it's not
Okay.
something I like.
And based on what you decided directional strategies?
Technical analysis mostly. I mean, I would really train if overnight. I mean, I don't think I have a ability to I do not consider myself worthy. But what I will do is I will look at some of these stock charts, and in this case, I don't think Airtel should go much below this particular level. That's my assumption, 560. So I will sell this particular spread that I discussed a while ago
Okay.
because
What are
implied volatility is fairly high. And I will sell this spread.
strategies that we have discussed, like for example, Condor, and if things start to go south, for example, if it's in negative and it's going on, then what's the best practice to avoid it? I mean, whether book a loss or put an SL or just get out of it and go for the next trade. What is the
So
existing?
one advantages that condos give over naked options is that even when the market starts moving against you, it's not going to move against you as quickly. So if you look at the blue line, your maximum loss. Let's go back to Nifty and weeklies because those are the most messier ones with respect to one directional moves. So let's go to the weekly. Yeah, we have a weekly on, and in this case, your maximum loss is some 15. No, sorry, some 8K, right? But if you go to the point where 14,500, right? If you go here on the present day, if market goes to 14,500, your loss would be, the blue line would be 2,500. So even though the market is moving against you, it's not moving against you very quickly. So what you can do is you can book the loss on this particular leg. You can remove this particular leg out. And what you can do is you can move this further out, essentially. So you can book the loss in this and collect some premium on this side. Or what some people like to do is, I mean, obviously there's the jury is out there. What's the best way to do? It's very opinionated. But some people, what they do is, as the market moves against them, let's say market moved here, what they're going to do is they're going to move this further closer. And they're going to narrow the condor.
I see.
Until it eventually becomes a iron butterfly, essentially. So there's a lot of ways to this is what is this called? These are commonly called as adjustments to a trade, or some people also call it firefight. It's basically the same thing.
Okay.
Eventually, over time, this will become a iron butterfly. This is a fairly reasonable way to go about it. Actually, it's not ideal in my opinion, but jury's out there.
Okay. Next question. Can you go back to the iron condor? I can see that the max profit is less than the max loss.
Yes.
I'm interested in the probability of it.
Yes. Let's check out the implied volatility first.
No, probability.
No, just I want to look at the implied volatility. I actually don't know where Nifty is at currently. I'm only trading intraday right now, so I'm not keen on top of this. So implied volatility currently is very. It's not a lot higher. So market is not expecting a lot, which is why you're not.
What is the range that for the market to not make a move for the IV?
Can you repeat your question?
What is the range that you're looking for the implied volatility to determine that market will not move?
So if market is assuming very high move in the index, is when I want to be neutral on it. Why? Because it's already priced into the option in most cases. So I think this is pre-budget, right? Pre-budget market was expecting a 30% move in Nifty for the entire year. So if you break it down to the week, it's probably, I'm not sure how exactly you calculate that right now, but it's market is essentially expecting a very high move in the index. So all the option prices are swollen up to accommodate for that, which means when the implied volatility is extremely high, I want to be selling options. I want to sell all the volatility that the market is already pricing in. Now currently because implied volatility is really low, market is not expecting a lot of move. It is still 20, it's decent, but it's not as high as it could be, right? So in this case, I would not be wanting to sell options, especially in this market, especially on Nifty. Neutral, very definitely not. So in this case, your question was that the profit is lesser than the loss. That will almost always be the case for selling options. But whatever you make up your risk reward, you compromise a bit on your risk reward, make up for that with the probabilities. With most option selling strategies, you'll almost always have more than 50, more than 60, and as you go wider and wider, your probabilities would be even higher. So let's just go a bit wider as well. So let's say we are trading some 63 or 65% probability or iron condor right now, or let's go all the way to 70. Now you're not collecting a lot of money, but your chances of market not going through your is a bit
Range.
higher. Why?
Hmm.
Yeah, the reason is because you're also collecting. Adds to your safety cushion. You're collecting 4,000 rupees. So overall, 4,000 rupees would translate to 4,639 by 70. 61. So 61 point amount of move is your safety cushion beyond the options that you have sold. You have sold this particular option, and 61 points further out of there, that's your safety. So your probabilities are fairly high on your options, which is why a bad risk reward is still decent. So essentially, with trading, what exactly are you looking for? You're looking for a combination of a risk reward that essentially works out for you. If you have if you have an exact correct 50% chance, right? All you need is you need to win slightly more than you lose. That's all you need to do to be net profitable.
Hmm.
And you essentially have to find a proper combination of risk reward and probabilities for you to be able to make money out of something. And in most cases, option selling, because the implied volatility is always overstated. If market is expecting a 5% move, that's just what the market is expecting. In most cases, I think I can show you a chart on Opstra for this. I can go to implied volatility charts and for Nifty. So implied volatility, historical volatility of 30 days and 10 days. So in case of 10 days, let's look at the weekly more or less. So I don't know what exact color is that, I assume, and the other one is red, right? So in this case, if you look at it, the market was implying a 20% volatility, but the actual move was 10%, right? Within those 10 days. So the option prices were expecting a 20% move. But since you sold them and the actual move was less than the expected move, you're 10%, that's your edge, essentially. So in most cases, the implied volatility at this, the market is in most cases expecting a lesser move than a bigger move than what actually happens. So if you're selling that fear, if you're selling that additional fear, that essentially adds to your, so you are more likely to make money because you're selling a bigger move, you're selling more premium than it's actually worth, in rough words.
Perfect. That leads to another question. Now, which strategy is more profitable? Selling condos for long term or weeklies? That means if I had to sell condo for, let's say, February month would get me a better premium, or a weekly premium condo would get me a better deal.
So that is actually a fairly generic. And the thing with entire options market is there's no one answer for anything. It depends on under what conditions you are selling something. If you are selling something when the implied volatility is high, when the market is already expecting a higher move, right? Then there's a very good chance that the actual move will be understated, right? If market is expecting a 20-30% move, the actual move might be some 25%, even under worst cases, in most cases. Like as you can see in this budget, the market just blew through all the barriers, right? But in most cases, implied volatility is overstated. So when IV is high, and if you're selling an option when the IV is high, then I mean it actually varies quite a lot. So in cases of condos, theta, you're short on time decay, right? And since weeklies lose money quicker to time than monthlies, if you sell 4 weeklies instead of 1 monthly, you should ideally be making more money. But then again, you have other risks, which are gamma risks. If market suddenly starts moving against you, you might not be able to cover up your position quickly. So it's a very generic question, and there's no one answer to this. I can recommend you a channel which actually covers this in depth. These guys, Tasty Trade, they have done a lot of research on this, on the different option strategies for different market conditions. So I'll just leave that in running commentary.
All right.
This particular
I think I
YouTube
need to
channel, they have done a lot of research on this particular topic. On
Tasty
when you
trade.
should sell options, when you should buy options, when the implied volatility is high. They have done some back testing and stuff. A lot of people disagree with their opinions, but the jury is always out there. One short answer for everything. Yeah.
Thanks. I'll check it out.
Awesome. So we have covered almost all the basic strategies. Now there are also some other strategies which I don't. There's one which I particularly like, but I don't know if that might be getting a bit too advanced for. But let me just cover it anyway because I use this quite often. Ratio spreads. So usually when you are, if I'm if I'm bearish on the market, or if I'm bullish on the market, what will I do? I'll sell the put and I'll buy another put to cover for the maximum, not for the, let's go for monthly. Actually, let me just build it from scratch so as to not confuse you folks. So Feb 25th, I am bullish on the market and I think market is not going below 14,500. So I'll sell this option and I'll buy back the particular 14,200. Am I doing this right? Oh, actually, let's do it the other way around. I am bullish on the market. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna buy the at the money option, which is 14,900 call. So I'll buy this particular call. That essentially gives me unlimited profit, and I'll sell this. I don't think market is going above 50,000 for 15,400. So I'll sell this option. That gives me this spread, right? My maximum losses, my maximum profit is covered till 15,500, 400. But the cost of my trade is still fairly high, 15,500. So what I can do is I can sell another additional call because I really don't think market is going to cross 15,400. So I'll sell another one of those to further reduce the cost of my trade. So what am I doing is earlier I was paying 15,000 to take this position, right? So if the market went down or stayed right there where it is, I would have lost 15,000. So what I can do is, since I'm selling another one, so I'm essentially reducing that cost down further. So 306 minus some 200 instead of minus 100. That's my actual cost of the trade. But what's my actual risk in this? My actual risk is any move beyond 15,400. So the market actually starts to lose. I mean, my actual risk is unlimited. But this is a very high probability trade if you think about it, because I'm collecting an additional amount of premium. So that additional amount of premium that I'm collecting adds to my safety cushion. Uh, so if my break even for a, had I just sold this particular, how do I?
We are back,
Hello?
right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So I particularly like this trade. Why? Because if I adjust this up further bit more, if I bring this slightly closer and stuff, I can essentially make this trade free. I'm just paying 1,350 rupees to take a bullish position. And if Nifty for whatever reason expires right where I've sold the option for 50,250, that so ISP God seems to have a differing opinion than I do, and that's okay. But I like ratio spreads for other reasons actually. I actually use that as a hedge. What I do is if I'm bullish on the market and I have a lot of bullish positions, I am actually long a lot of options. Not a lot. I'm long on a lot of cash equity. So what I will do is I'll just sell a put ratio spread on the for the monthly, and I will move it further out. and that gives me some really wide break evens for a very cheap price. So in this case, I'm paying 2,000 rupees, and that covers up if the market expires right at 14,400 or anywhere till 14,200 or something. I'm still gonna make 20,000 out of this trade. For my actual risk is 2,000 rupees until market goes to 13,900, which the odds I think are very very low. So I mean, there's no one strategy which works for all conditions. You have to see what your use case is for the particular strategy, and then work accordingly, and put the correct trade on. I put ratio spreads from time to time. I actually like them, but ISB God seems to have differing opinions. So each their own man. That guy anyway is a king of reversals, so I don't think I should be debating with that. Cool. So any questions so far with any strategies?
Yes.
Bolo bhai, ask.
Good. Like you said, you like implementing this strategy at spreads. So if I'm doing it for intraday, like how
So
can
what
I
is
know
the view
my?
over here for the this ratio spread?
What is the?
What
I
is the
didn't get
view of
you.
the market? Is it a bullish, bearish, or what kind of view we are making over here?
Actually, I wanted to put one before the budget. I was like, market could crash, but I am mostly long on the market. It's if you're selling the put ratio spread, you're bullish. You're bearish actually, because to be able to make a profit, you want the market to move a bit. So you have a slightly bearish or a slightly bullish assumption. You think the market is going to move a little bit in the direction, in a particular direction, but not a lot. Because if the market moves quite a lot, which is what ISP got mentioned in the running commentary, if you look at it, he's like, okay, I cannot say that on the chat, on the voice, but essentially he's like, if the market makes a one directional move, then you can be in deep trouble, and which it can be because the losses are unlimited after a certain amount of time. And not only that, because the way the present day PNL diagram moves is, you won't also get a lot of time to cover for it if the market suddenly starts moving against you. So your actual loss will be higher than the max loss for that particular expiry at expiry. So you will not get a lot of time to cover up for that. So there's always a pro and con for a trade. You're essentially taking a spread and you're covering and you're reducing the cost of it. So and you can actually also route this for credit. That's one really cool thing I see. The way around, sorry. So in this case, I've routed this for credit. I'm actually collecting some money, and if the market goes in my direction, or even if the market does not go in my direction, I'm still collecting 1,000 rupees. I'm now paying down 1.5 lakh to collect 1,800 rupees or something. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So yeah, you can do a lot of weird things with options, and this ratio spread is one of them.
And what's the vertical spread?
What? My view on vertical spreads. I think vertical spreads are awesome. Why? Because no matter whether you're buying or selling, the price will not move very much against you very quickly. You will always have time to adjust or get out of your position. Let's say if you bought a call, right? You bought this particular call which is at the money, and you're holding the at the money option, and the market suddenly starts moving against you. You will be quickly looking at a huge loss. You know, if the market suddenly moves 100 or 200 points against you, you'll be quickly looking at some 10k loss or something. Instead of that, if you bought a call spread and the market suddenly moves 200 points against you, you're looking at some 3k 4k loss, which is very much manageable. You can at least like you can happily book the loss and still not be very much affected by that. So I like spreads for this reason. If the market moves against you, it's just going to reduce the pace of it, if nothing else. And it has other benefits. It reduces the cost of your trade. It reduces the amount of margin you need to collect. Your broker collects from you and stuff like that. So I like spreads. One disadvantages of spread is that if the market moves against you slower, it also moves in your direction slower. So if you're selling a naked call, I'm bearish on the market, I'll sell a call, right? As soon as the market starts going in my direction, I'll be looking at some decent profits, right? With the spread, with the naked call. But if I sell a call spread, then the market will move very slowly in my direction in most cases, and like it might or might not always be beneficial to. That's one disadvantage of it, but I like the other benefits. Like it doesn't throw you off a trade very quickly. I think that's a very good benefit of. And since your maximum loss is always defined, there's no way you can blow your account up because you're already paying a significantly more margin. There's no way you can blow your account up with credit spreads or debit spreads in general.
So on the day of expiry, weekly expiry, is a vertical spread the recommended strategy?
On the day of expiry, I am not sure. Let's take a look. I mean, I don't really do much for the expiry, and especially for weeklies. So let's go to 11. I'm not sure, man. I have never done it to be able to. If someone wants to pitch in, there are a lot of experienced folks in the chat right now. So if anyone has, if anyone wants to pitch in, how are spreads during expiry?
Okay, let me put it in this way. For the expiry, what is the refined strategy to be profitable at least?
ISB God, your mic is you have a background noise too.
Yeah, just 1 second, no? 1 second.
Kiki Killer, I couldn't get your question, man. I'm sorry. You'll have to
Okay, my
repeat.
question is now since everyone waits for the expiry, I was looking
Yeah.
for a strategy that at least makes some money and not a loss. With a
There's no
decent
such
amount.
strategy, man. So expiries are very tricky. In most cases, I will only be comfortable selling options with a fixed stop loss during expiries if I had to take a trade at expiry on the expiry day or something. So I don't really I
Yeah.
cannot suggest you an option strategy which will magically work because expiries are very tricky. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, that's what I do. I mostly trade options on the expiry, then
Yeah.
to sell options,
Yeah.
which is I would say like OTMs. And I have done like a pledge my shares, especially IDC, to get a margin, so I can get a decent amount of margin for this. But looks like with all the strategy that you shared, I think at least a couple of them could be applied at the expiry to get a better premium. I'm still searching for that.
I mean, you can just sell a strangle. A lot of people do that. I know the moneymaker does this. He comes to the expiry and he just sells a strangle happily. So that's his way of doing things. There is no one strategy which works. You'll have to figure out whichever one works for the kind of losses or for the kind of quicker moves you can take. There's also a lot of emotional concepts baked in. But I think ISB God is typing something, running commentary, and I think it's targeted
Yes.
at you. So
Yes, so he doesn't sell OTMs. I think he sells ATM with a cover order.
So I mean, from what I've
You
seen,
get
ISB God, what he does is he times reversals, and he does it pretty well. So he will see if the market is really, and I also am doing that lately quite a bit, and it's working out very successfully for me. What I do is I open the 3 minute chart because actually I'm scalping, so I'll open the 3 minute chart, and what trades did I take on that day? I don't quite remember, but I think I took trades in one of these. No. What I did was when the market crashed here, I sold this particular, not exactly here, but I sold this particular call, 14,900 or 14,800 call. I think I sold that and I rode through this wave and I exited. Then I waited when the market just crashed. I think I sold somewhere here. I sold a call here. I sold
so,
a put. I'm sorry. I sold a put here
so
and I
basically
rode through
ITM.
this wave. It is out of the money. I sold 14,800 puts.
Oh, 800. Okay, so you sell OTM or the ATM.
Now,
Okay.
it depends actually. It actually depends. For intraday, it depends. Why? Because when you're away from expiry, when you're on Friday, Monday, Tuesday, then the OTMs actually have a lot of premium. So there is a lot of premium to be collected there. You will have some 70, 80 rupees at the nearest OTM. or even more. Like yesterday, I think on Friday it was some 150 rupees for 14,800. So that's a lot of healthy premium, right? If you're so you can sell that and look to collect some. As I move closer and closer to expiry, and especially on the day of expiry, I'll sell at the money. Why? Because that's exactly where the premium is. Out of the money doesn't have any premium, and you are actually exposing yourself to a lot of risk if market suddenly moves against you. That 10 rupee, that 15 rupee put that you're selling, which is out of the money, that can suddenly swell up to 50, and it will just hit your stop losses all day. That's what I feel. So at the money, I like on near expiry and out of the money away from expiry.
Okay, so on the expiry, you usually deal with OTMs, and away from the expiry,
No,
you
no.
deal with
On expiry, I actually use ATMs at the money.
ATMs. So
Yeah.
doesn't the when the market move violently on the expiry day itself, that ATM will also go in either direction?
It will. But ATM actually has the most amount of premium, like extrinsic value.
Mhm.
I'm short extrinsic value essentially. So I have the stop losses to cover for my max loss. That's always the case. No matter if I'm selling ATM, OTM in the money, it doesn't really matter. I have a stop loss. I sell by using cover order.
Oh, you're using cover orders. Okay, so that's a predefined stop loss is inbuilt
Yes.
within the trade
I
itself.
have some 20. I'll have some 20-point stop loss on Nifty options if I'm selling them. And
Perfect.
I'm happy to book that loss. It's fine. Like nobody in their right minds can win all the time. Nobody. It's not possible to win all the times. As long as you have fixed stop losses, you might lose sometimes, but if your probability of success is higher, like if you think about it, there's one candle, there's one red candle, there's third red candle, there's a fourth red candle, right? That's a lot of red candles. Now, in this particular point, at this particular point, the out of the money puts, they will swell up in value. The entire market, like all the people are just rushing to buy these puts, and all the people who sold these puts, they're covering their puts back. So these particular puts will swell up in value. So I'll just sell this with a 20-point stop loss, this particular put. Now, even if the market moves slightly in my favor, I don't need a candle this big either. I just need this particular candle to exit completely, and I need a slight follow through candle. That's all I need. And all the extra premium that it had stolen up, right? All the covering, and I'll easily collect from 8 to 10 points here. And as a scalper, that's all I'm looking for. If I'm collecting 8 to 10 points on a 75 rupee, and I usually sell 2 lots, so 150 into 8, that's how much. I'm making 1200 rupees in this trade. And collecting 8 points when the option prices have stolen up completely, it's actually fairly easy. After 1, 2, 3, 4 red candles, come on, dude. Those options are extremely overpriced. The puts out of the money puts are extremely overpriced. One green candle, and that premium is evaporated in seconds. So I try to time that. That's it.
This is a 3-minute chart or 5-minute chart?
This is a 3-minute chart.
3-minute
I mean,
chart.
when I'm scalping, I look at 3 minutes.
So basically, within 9 minutes, our target, I mean, your target is achieved usually.
Yeah. I usually my trades are sometimes they are not even a minute. So sometimes you see these violent candles, right? This particular candle will give me 10 points on the out of the money option. 8 to 10 points easily.
So since it's a red candle, you prefer selling calls over here, right?
No, selling puts. Why? Because I'm timing a reversal.
Okay.
I'm trying to catch a small reversal. I'm not. It's not even a reversal. It's just a retracement. That's all I'm trying to catch.
Okay, noted.
I mean, usually my trades are less than 10 minutes in most cases. I mean, if you're scalping and if you're taking more than 10 minutes, then you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, if you're scalping, then you can't be in the market for a long time. You have to square up.
Because you usually have fairly bigger positions. I mean, in my case, I just trade 2 lots, but I'm sure there are a lot of people who do that. Like I know ISB got trades 7 lots, 8 lots. So that's a fairly big position. But he particularly likes to hold his trades, so he's not a scalper. He likes to hold his trades. I tried doing that, but it didn't work for me.
Now, where you're keeping your mouse, I can see that there are 3 successive red candles. Wouldn't be it more profitable to sell calls at the time?
No, because the calls are suddenly losing value. When you see a red candle like that.
But I'm selling call here.
Here you are selling call, but you cannot be sure. if it's not a higher probability trade in my opinion. When you look at it at the hindsight, it makes sense to sell a call here, right? But in my opinion, that's a lower probability trade. Why? Because the market has already dropped a bit, right? There's a red candle, so calls would have lost a fair amount of value here, and with the further follow through, out of the money calls would have lost a lot more value already. If you sell calls now, and if the market suddenly reverses against you, you have a very high chance of hitting your stop loss very quickly, even in a small candle. What I want to do is I want to sell short-term panics. 1, 2, 3, 4. Come on, dude. Market is scared. Market is scared it's gonna crash. All the puts. People are rushing to buy the puts. All the people who sold these puts, they are rushing to cover them back. Suddenly, the price of the puts goes up. You see a huge candle on the put. I sell there, and then even a bit of a retracement. I'm just targeting this. I think this, in my opinion, I feel this is a fairly high probability trade.
So basically, it's a short covering, and you're
Yeah.
building up on it.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Okay.
So it works out fairly well, fairly consistently for me. If it doesn't, I'll probably try and find a strategy. I mean, there are a lot of different strategies you can try in intraday. But it's good to have one at least. If you're just trying to, a lot of people I see is what they do is they buy the call, they buy the put, and they keep holding it, like hoping market goes in their direction. That's not a strategy. That's a gamble. If you're selling it, you better have. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're in for just 10 seconds or 10 minutes or 1 hour or 2 hours, but you should have some amount of strategy, some amount of stop loss when you're going to take your loss, when you're going to take your profit before you enter a trade. Otherwise, I think it just becomes difficult. It becomes at that point of time, because if the market suddenly moves against you, which it will, if you don't have a predefined strategy of when to enter, when to exit, you'll probably, in most cases, you will not be sure what to do next, and you will take rash decisions. That's what I have noticed from my experience as well in the past. I used to be like that, and I've tried and become better, and I'm still learning.
You're doing great.
Yeah. Okay, man. So I'll put the doc up. I think we covered some amount of implied volatility, how the Greeks affect, but we couldn't really touch up much on that. We did cover some of the intraday stuff. For the 7th point, I think I'll just make a write-up, because it's very hard to explain this way. I'll have to write this up, and you guys will have to read to see how the Greeks affect the different option strategies. But essentially, in most cases, you are selling time and you're selling fear. Or essentially options they are timed, and options exist because there's fear in the market. So you want to be selling options when there's a lot of fear in the market in most cases. And you want to be buying options where there's not a lot of fear in the market. So implied volatility. This is the main thing. This is the main thing that you need to be aware of when making option strategies. You do not want to be buying options when the implied volatility is high, because most of the thing is already priced into options in most cases. And when the implied volatility is very low, you don't want to be selling options here. Why? Because if the market suddenly starts expecting a bigger and bigger move, all the options that you sold, they're suddenly worth a lot more. So you are definitely in loss at this time. This is a general opinion, and it usually tends to work out. But it's nothing is written in concrete, because if something was written in concrete, hedge funds would have capitalized on that till it's not valuable anymore. So you have to take bets according to your risk and reward. So yeah, I think it's been a long enough session, and we should call it a day. What do you guys feel? If you have any questions, please shoot at me. And I think there's also ISB God. He's happily taking up some questions in the chat. So yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions or something. None? OI के बारे में बताओ कुछ please. Oh, okay. We can do that. So, open interest. What do you mean by open interest? Open interest essentially means the amount of contracts which exist in the market. So if a contract, I think I covered this 2 days ago. Yeah. How to start and close option trades. For buying option, you have to buy to open, and to close the particular trade, you have to sell to close, right? on the other side, if somebody on the other end of side, if somebody is selling an option, so to start the trade, they'll sell the call first, and to close the trade, they'll have to buy to close, right? So for an option, think about it. If you want to buy something, it needs to exist first, right? So someone needs to write an option first for you. If I want to buy a 15,000 call, so my assumption is market is going to blow past 15,500. That's my assumption. And for someone to sell that particular option to me, someone has to have a opposite side of the opinion that market is not going above 15,000 no matter what. Or it could be a roughly assumption based on that. So for a contract to exist, somebody has to sell it first. Does that make sense? Anybody has any questions about this? No, right? So if there's one party which is buying the option, there's another party which is selling the option. So option sellers are the ones who create the market, right? Someone has to sell options for them to exist. And what does a selling option mean? Selling option means if you're selling a call, your assumption is bearish, or market is unlikely to move above this call strike. If you're selling a put, what's your assumption? Your assumption is bullish. That is market is unlikely to move below this put strike. Let's look at the chart of the daily chart. If my assumption is market is not going to break this particular support, so I will sell this particular 14,200 put. That's my assumption. So this particular contract came into existence. So I have a bullish assumption for which I'm selling the put. So one contract was created this way. Now, based on this, you can tell that what the market is roughly expecting. So if you go into, and that's called open interest. I just added one lot of put to the open interest. So far so good.
So when you say added, means you already have taken position, or you have
I
placed an
sold it
order?
to somebody. I sold it. I sold the contract.
Okay.
So I essentially created that contract which didn't exist earlier.
Okay, that means taken a position.
Yes, I took a position. So
It's not like placing an order.
it is placing an order. I placed an order. That order got filled, and
Okay.
when the order got filled is when the contract was created.
Okay.
These are not like shares, right? How are shares created? The company creates the shares, and somebody buys it, and then they sell it, and back and forth. In case of options, somebody has to take the opposite side of the trade, which somebody has to sell first for that option to exist. So if a lot of people are selling 40,200 calls or puts, which means a lot of people are expecting market to not go below 40,000. Now, who are the biggest players in the market? The biggest players in the market are institutions, the DIIs, the FIIs, the pro traders. Now, these guys are the ones. If this guy says SoftBank. So, if you see a lot of open interest for 14,200, you can just assume to some extent that a lot of institutions do not expect the market to crash below this particular point. And if you see a lot of contracts being written at 15,200, for example, then you expect the market to not break above 14,200, because a lot of institutions are writing these calls or options, and they believe they have a very good assumption that market is not going above or below this particular point. So now look at the options chain for this. Or let's look at the NSE options chain actually. So now again, before I go into this, let me preface this. No amount of data can conclusively predict a direction or a strike for that matter. All this is assumptions based on data. You can only use the data to make assumptions to increase your probability of understanding them. That's all. So In this case, let's look at where the most amount of open interest is for 11th Feb expiry. On the put side, there are a lot of 14,700 puts being written, which means there's a very good chance that the market is not expecting a move below 14,700. A lot of institutions are writing this put happily. And change in open interest. What does this mean? This means a lot of puts were written in a single day. 7,630 contracts were written on the same day. This has the maximum change, and another is this particular level. So market is expecting big institutions are not expecting markets to go below 14,700 or 14,500. They're bullish on the market. That you can conclude to some extent this stuff looking at the open interest. Now on the call side, and there are a lot more calls being written than puts.
But it's like for the put option, if you look at the 14,000 strike, there the OI is the highest.
Look, those even number of strikes will always have the most amount of interest. Why? Because a lot of people, I think, selling. I mean, there could be a whatever reason for that.
So how to interpret that with that means it's a wide range. So can we say that like beyond 14,000 it won't go further down? That's the interpretation that one can make.
You can assume that. I mean, of course, I honestly I don't look at OI data. Why? Because I don't think I can make any prominent conclusion out of it. Personally speaking, I almost never look at OI. But there are a lot of people who feel that this amount of data can give them a certain idea institutions might or might not be doing. So you can look at, if you look at, you find a particular strike where the open interest is changing a lot, which means a lot of institutions and maybe the big waves, they are writing these options, which means because they are the ones who actually control the market, right? They buy and sell stocks. So you can to some extent conclude that these guys know what's going to happen next. And accordingly, they are selling options to profit off of the fear, something like that. And similarly, on the call side, you can just come and see where the most amount of change in open interest is. So let's say around 15,500. There's a lot of open interest. And if you look at it, there's more open interest on the call side than on the put side, which means there's a assumption in the market that market is not going much further above what it already has. Maybe there's an assumption. There's always a maybe. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 green days, massively green days. There's one doji. Market is becoming bearish. So people are selling. There are more calls in existence than puts. So what you can do is there's something called call to put ratio. I don't often visit here, so see what these things are. So put to call ratio. PCR. Okay, this particular thing has it's only been so, but the puts and calls are pretty much in the same ratio actually in existence, which means as many puts as calls have been.
Doji is not bearish.
Doji is not bearish. Yeah, it is not bearish, but some people can interpret that as a sign of possible reverse, a possible change of trend. I mean, obviously, no candle can 100% predict, right? People can make assumptions. I am not making any because this market is starting. So, I mean, I don't want to swing trade right now. But a lot of people assume doji to be a end of a trend or a sign of a possible reversal, if I had to put it in this way. I mean, again, I don't have any opinion on this, to be frank. So you can just look at this data and try to conclude and try to maybe interpret what the market's entire assumptions are. Essentially, that's what you can do based on how many contracts exist. Over time, these contracts also change. So you can just come and look at multi-strike open interest, things like that. And then you can see which strikes are being written more, which strikes are being written less. So the line is 15,000 call option. So as the market moved from February 3rd to February 5th, a lot of these calls were written, which means if a lot of calls are being written, the market is bearish. It's becoming bearish to some extent. This could be interpreted. I am not saying why, because I don't think I can conclude much out of open interest. But ISB Dog, the other guy, he feels that he can make some really good conclusions from open interest data.
Irtak,
Yeah.
how calls are bearish?
If you're writing calls, if you're selling calls, that's so I did end. When you're selling a call, you're bearish, right? If you're buying a call, you're bullish. When you're selling a call, you're bearish. It's the other side of the trade. Somebody has to take the other side of the trade.
Oh, these are selling data.
Yeah. So when you sell, that's what I'm told, right? Someone has to sell options for them to. So if someone is selling a call, that means they are bearish on the market. So if you see a lot of calls being sold, which I do see actually right now, there's a lot more calls in existence.
Okay, yeah. So somebody sold means somebody bought. Then only open interest comes.
Yes. For a contract to exist, someone has to sell first.
Okay, yeah. Someone has to buy. Then only it comes to existence.
Yeah.
Yeah, clear.
So this is all I can talk about open interest, man. I really don't use this much, but I think you should contact ISB Doc. I think he uses open interest data quite a lot. I mean, I honestly don't feel much could be concluded out of this, but I did notice that before Asian Paints started to dip, I think me and Technical Trader and we were having a voice call, Asian Paints. So this was at this point we had the voice call. I kid you not, me, Technical Trader, a bunch of folks, Diehard Gaming, we were on a call, and Technical Trader was like, "I am shorting Asian Paints," and we were like, "What makes you think?" Because if you ignore this part, and if you see a stock which has run up like that, right, you do not want to short. I mean, it is essentially a fairly difficult trade, right? Because you can never be sure of a stock which is moving like that. But when we looked at the open interest data that day, it was the first day after which the put call ratio went in favor. There were more calls being written than puts, which means the ratio of calls was more than puts. And right after that, the market, Asian Paints kind of crashed. So this data, it does not always, but it can actually give you some indication on what the market is faring or on what the market is feeling right now. So let's look at the monthly OI change in Nifty and see what they are thinking about it. Let's look at the put call ratio. It's never a conclusive thing, but it's good to just have a rough idea. Put call ratio. There's a lot more puts being written. The put call ratio is at 1.75, which means for 1.75, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. For every 7 calls, for every 7 puts, there are 4 calls in existence, which means the market is extremely bullish on the monthly time frame. You can kind of interpret this from it if you had to. I mean, I honestly don't feel that open interest can predict anything at the very least. It can at best give you a hint of what's happening. So the put call ratio is up 1.754, 1.758. It's actually going up. So market continues to remain bullish on the monthly time frame. On the weekly, we don't have enough data yet. There's just been one day, and the contract, we only have one data point where there are more calls than puts. Just slightly though, not a lot of difference. They are more or less on parity. So make what you can out of this data. So I think should we end this call here? We have covered almost all the things we had to cover. SB God says no. Awesome. Put your questions. I'm up for it.
Yeah, Irtak, a general question.
Go
Whenever
for it.
you do a Google search and some blue boxes comes, what are those things?
What do you mean? Okay.
I know that's a shortcut, but I was not able to find it in Windows.
It's not a Windows shortcut. Essentially called Tridactyl. Tridactyl. So there's the Vim text editor. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. Vim text editor. It's a command line based text editor. And these are essentially just shortcuts. So I can essentially control the entire. I can go up and down using J and K. Make bigger moves using D and U. I can scroll page up, page down. When I press F,
You can click links.
yeah,
this
when I
link.
press F, it generates all these links. I can open them in a new tab or something. And there's a lot of shortcuts you can actually read this particular thing within the running commentary. I just did. And you can just see it's mostly just Vim. It's basically all Vim shortcuts here. So I just press slash and I can start typing.
Okay, so this is an extension in the browser.
Yeah, it's an extension in the browser. And I have customized a lot of things to my own liking. But the defaults, I think if you can learn even half of it, your speed will increase.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
But if you use Vim, I think any Vim users here might know what this is. So it's I was a sysadmin, so I spent my entire life within Vim. So not much to. So yeah, let's end the call, man. Thanks everyone. I hope you guys learned something that you wanted to out of.
Thanks very much, Ritak, for your time.